am so excited for the new 25th anniversary edition of The Story of the World, Volume 1. This was the first world history that I ever wrote, and I just remember being so excited to tell this great chronological story of the world's civilizations. Still really proud of that original edition, but as time went on, we found that there were a few things that we did want to change. I would say that for me, the first and most important thing is that I realized as I got on into the Middle Ages and then the Renaissance and then the modern world, that in that first volume, I hadn't really laid a good foundation for students to know where these civilizations that became more important in later times came from. Didn't seem important at the time, but as I finished the story of the world, I realized how important it was. So in this 25th anniversary edition, we've made a couple changes to address that. One is that we rearranged the chapters to make them more strictly chronological. In the earlier edition, it was a little bit more thematic, just to help with understanding, but we found that in some cases that actually confused students more than it helped. So the 25th anniversary edition is more chronological. Even more important for me is that we have new chapters on civilizations and cultures that we didn't really cover in the first one. And again, that's just to lay that foundation for the future. So there's 2 new chapters on East Asian history. There's additional material on the rise of the Roman Republic, which we sort of skimmed over a little bit in the first edition. The Han Dynasty, the Silk Road, the rule of Herod the Great. And for me, one of the really exciting things is this gave me a chance to tell more stories. So we've also included 10 new biographies of people who were very important in their own cultures, but didn't necessarily get worldwide renown. You know, you're not gonna find them in the Encyclopedia Britannica entry, but we really wanted to highlight these history makers, as we're calling them. So this is all new material that I think makes the chronological exploration of the world's story just even more fascinating. So that was really the main motivation, but there were a couple of other reasons why I wanted to do a revision. In the 25 years since I wrote The Story of the World Volume 1, there have been new discoveries. There have been new scientific advances, particularly in dating, that made us want to go back and revisit some of the facts in the first edition, which at the time were the best information that anybody had. But just one example of this, new methods of dating have pretty significantly changed the age of the walls of Jericho. For example, it's something that somebody actually just asked us about the other day. It's about 2,000 years older than original dating methods had told us. So there were things like that that we just wanted to go back and update in light of how history and the sciences of archaeology have really moved forward. And then finally, I just loved the chance to revisit this wonderful project. It is so much fun to follow the world's story chronologically from ancient times up until the fall of Rome. And it was just such a delight for me to be able to do that again and add new details, new color, new drama, because there is so much drama in ancient times. So just a couple other things about the new edition. We have new illustrations and maps. We were very careful in this new edition to really differentiate narrative history from myths and stories. We wanted to make very clear to students that myths and stories are sometimes how we know about ancient times, but they have a different level of truth, as it were, a different level of trustworthiness. So we wanted to make very clear to students who were reading the myth of Gilgamesh, for example, that this is how we know a lot about Sumer, but it isn't necessarily the same as history. So we were very careful to do that. We know how beloved the original edition was, and we do plan to keep it for the foreseeable future in print. We know that a lot of people are using it still. We know that a lot of schools are using it. We do hope that the new edition will eventually become the standard for the story of the world, but you don't need to worry that the old one is going to go away. So just a few housekeeping details. There's a new workbook, there are new tests. The new workbook is not compatible with the old Story of the World text and vice versa. So if you do get the new Story of the World, you're going to want the new workbook as well. Volume 1 is coming out in October in PDF only if you want to get a jump on the rest of the world. Also digital audio.
When the Athenians saw that they had won the battle, they sent a runner back to Athens to tell the people who were anxiously waiting at home that the Persian threat had been driven back. The runner, Phidippides, ran over 26 miles, up steep hills and through rough country to reach Athens. When he arrived at the city, he gasped out, "We have won!" And then, according to legend, he died of exhaustion. Today we have a race named after the village of Marathon. The race is a little over 26 miles long, and it is called a marathon.
The physical versions are coming in February 2026, so that will include not just the text, but the redesigned workbooks and the instructor guides as well. So we really hope that you enjoy, if I may say, this new edition of a groundbreaking series.